All right, welcome back everybody for another deep dive. Today we're tackling some pretty critical safety procedures. And when I say critical, I mean it.
Yeah, no kidding.
This stuff is important.
Yeah.
We're talking about locomotive crane operation. So this is for crane operators, obviously.
Yeah.
Crane operators working to recertify those trying to become crane operators and risk and safety personnel. Everybody on site, really. This is presented by Safety One Source.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be diving deep, no pun intended, into derailment recovery, safe swinging practices, and
this is a big one.
the real deal with rail clamps.
Yeah, a lot of misconceptions floating around about those.
Oh, I bet. And I know I've had a few myself over the years.
Yeah.
So let's start with something that hopefully nobody listening ever has to experience.
Yeah.
Derailment.
Right.
I mean, can you even imagine you're operating this massive locomotive crane and suddenly it's off the tracks? What's the first thing that goes through your mind?
Well, I mean, hopefully it's not panic, right?
Right.
Because that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah, definitely not the time to lose your cool.
Exactly. And, you know, it's almost instinctual to want to just use the curless power to try and get back on track. But that's actually one of the worst things you can do.
Really? Why is that? I mean, it seems like the most direct approach, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But using the crane's own power can put a ton of stress on the tracks. I mean, we're talking tremendous force.
Okay.
And that can actually cause more damage, you know, bend the rails even further, or even damage the crane itself.
So it's kind of like, what's a good analogy? Like trying to force a stuck door open, you just end up making things worse.
Perfect analogy.
So if the crane's own power is out of the question, what's the right way to handle a derailment?
Well, the key is using external power.
It's external power, okay.
There are tools specifically designed for this, like a wrecking frog or a car replacer. They basically act as a guide to get the crane back on the rails safely and with controlled force.
Oh, okay. So it's more about finesse than brute strength in this situation.
Absolutely. Control is key. Now, thinking about those potential complications, have you ever, thought about what might make a derailment even more challenging? What kind of factors would make that recovery even tougher?
Well, I guess the terrain would be a big factor, right? Like if the derailment happens on a slope or uneven ground, that would make things a lot trickier.
Exactly. Or if there are obstacles nearby, other equipment structures.
Right. And weather conditions, too. I mean, trying to re-rail a crane in the middle of a blizzard doesn't sound like fun.
Definitely not ideal. All things to consider when you're developing your safety plans and procedures.
Absolutely. So, derailment averted, we're back on track. Now let's talk about swinging. I mean, moving that boom, it seems pretty straightforward.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
But I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
You got it. One of the biggest dangers with swinging is the potential for hitting moving cars on a track next to you. You can't just swing that boom around without being absolutely sure it's clear.
Okay, so what's the rule here? What do you absolutely have to do before even thinking about swinging that crane?
First and foremost, you have to confirm that there is absolutely no movement on that adjacent track. And that's where proper flag protection comes in.
Okay, now you're throwing around this term, proper flag protection. Can you break that down for us? What does it actually look like in practice?
It all comes down to creating a safe zone.
Right.
And that involves using trained flaggers who are communicating directly with the crane operator and any approaching trains.
Oh, okay.
These flaggers use a standardized set of hand signals and flags to direct traffic, basically.
Oh, I see. So it's a whole coordinated system. It's not just about the crane operator.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be on the same page, working together to prevent accidents.
There's like an orchestra, right?
Yeah.
Every musician needs to be in sync to make the music work.
Perfect analogy. Clear communication is key. Everyone on site needs to know what's happening and what the crane is doing.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now let's talk about those rail clamps.
Yeah.
I'll admit, for the longest time, I thought those things were all about preventing the crane from tipping over.
That's a common misconception. A lot of folks think that.
So what's the truth about rail clamps?
Well, their main job is to secure the crane's position on the rails, to keep it from moving around. They do add some stability, but they're not designed to be the primary anti-tipping mechanism.
Okay.
And here's the part that might surprise you. Those clamps should actually have a little bit of slack between the attachment points and the crane itself.
Wait, slack? You mean they shouldn't be tightened down as much as possible?
Nope, not at all. Think of it like this. If you're rock climbing and you anchor yourself to the cliff face with a rope that's completely taut, Any little movement can put a huge strain on that rope.
Right.
Same idea with rail clamps.
Okay.
That slack acts as a buffer, a little bit of give, so that the crane can make small adjustments without putting too much stress on the clamps.
So if you try to crank them down as tight as possible, you could actually make the crane less stable.
Exactly. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that slack is actually a safety feature.
Wow. It's really interesting. I never would have guessed that.
It's all about understanding the limits of your equipment, knowing what it's designed to do and what it's not designed to do.
Right. Knowing your tools inside and out.
Exactly.
So let's recap what we've covered today. We talked about derailment recovery and why using external power is so crucial.
Right.
We discussed the importance of flag protection for safe swinging operations.
That's a big one.
And we busted that myth about tight rail clamps.
Yeah, slack is your friend in that case.
Who knew? Now, before we wrap up, I have one final thought for our listeners. Imagine you're training a brand new crane operator.
Okay.
What's the one key takeaway from today's deep dive that you'd absolutely want them to understand from day one?
That's a good one. I think I'd emphasize that safety is everybody's responsibility. It's not just the crane operator. Everyone on the site plays a role.
Absolutely. It's a team effort. Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into locomotive crane safety. And remember, this episode was brought to you by Safety One Source. For all your crane safety training needs, visit safetyonesource.com. Until next time, stay safe out there and keep learning.
Safe.